Welcome to DRM News Global. We're your shortcut into the stories that, well, seem to be getting everyone talking.
Mm-hmm.
And today, we're really zeroing in on Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco,
Right.
specifically all the recent buzz around their relationship. A lot of it sparked by their appearance on the Table Manners with Jesse and Lenny Ware podcast.
Yeah, that interview definitely made some waves. So we've got those details, the stories they shared.
Exactly. And also the whirlwind of online reactions
Mm-hmm.
that came after.
It's quite something.
So, our mission today, let's try and get past the headlines, really unpack what these shared moments reveal, and maybe understand why they've hit such a nerve.
It is fascinating, isn't it? How a couple shares what seem like, pretty lighthearted, maybe intimate stories.
Yeah.
And boom, almost instantly it gets filtered through thousands of online opinions, often with like wildly different takes.
Okay, so let's dive right in. The first story that really grabbed a lot of attention, the first kiss story. Benny told this on the Table Manners podcast that just came out Wednesday, April 30th.
Right.
He said their second date, they were playing that game, we're not really strangers.
Okay.
And there was a prompt to take a selfie. Selena kind of cuddled up, and Benny just felt, that was the moment. He kissed her.
Simple enough, it seems. But then Selena's reaction was, well, apparently quite physical and immediate.
Yeah. He said her heart started racing like crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and she actually broke out in a rash.
Wow, a rash. That really speaks to the kind of internal pressure or vulnerability, doesn't it? Especially in those early moments.
Totally. And Selena explained why. She said she was just incredibly nervous because, and this is her quote, she hadn't liked anyone in a very long time.
Right, after navigating some, I think she called them shitty dates.
Yeah, shitty dates. So she felt embarrassed by her body reacting like that. But apparently Benny was like really reassuring about it.
Which is good.
It's such a human moment though, right? That kind
Yeah.
of disconnect between wanting something and your nerves just taking over.
Absolutely. And it really highlights how past experiences, those shitty dates, can shape how we react right now.
For sure.
It's like that emotional armor builds up, maybe. So a real connection feels both amazing and maybe a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, makes sense. It does make you wonder how much of that baggage we all kind of carry into new things.
Yeah.
Sometimes without even realizing.
True.
So building on that, this theme of vulnerability,
Yeah.
there's another story from that same chat about Selena being, let's say, very punctual for dates.
Enthusiastically punctual, maybe?
Yeah. Benny shared she had this habit of showing up at his place like 20, sometimes 30 minutes early.
And just waiting.
Yeah, waiting in her car.
Okay. And her reason.
She said it wasn't really about being early, more about managing her anxiety.
Ah, okay. Like a buffer zone.
Exactly. Use the time to mentally prep, maybe listen to music, make a call, just kind of center herself before going in.
It's a coping mechanism, really. Makes sense.
What I thought was interesting, though, was Benny saying she knew about this because, well, he has a street view camera.
Right. He could see her car pull up.
Yeah. And they both made a point of saying, like, this was something they hadn't shared publicly before.
Mm-hmm.
Which adds another layer.
It does make you think a bit about, the level of observation that sometimes happens, maybe even unconsciously in those early dating stages.
And this is where the internet reaction really seemed to ignite, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Especially on X, formerly Twitter. The responses got quite polarized.
You're not wrong. Some reactions aimed at Benny were pretty sharp.
Like what?
Well, some people jumped on the street view camera thing, calling it stalker behavior.
Oof, that's strong.
Yeah. And others really criticized him for even sharing the story about her arriving early, calling it tasteless, or saying it showed he was insecure somehow.
Interesting. So judging him for sharing a seemingly innocuous anecdote.
And then there were comments about Selena, too, calling her early waiting desperate, which just felt harsh. It is interesting how that story, Selena arriving early, triggered such negativity in some corners. Maybe it taps into some societal discomfort with, perceived eagerness, especially early on.
Could it be?
Or just questions about what's okay to share about your partner. When does it become oversharing, especially with someone so famous?
Good point. But it wasn't all negative feedback. Not at all.
Yeah.
No, there was a big wave of support for Selena. Actually, lots of people chimed in saying they totally got the predate anxiety, that need to mentally prepare. Super relatable, they said.
Okay, so connecting with that vulnerability.
Exactly. Some even found her eagerness kind of endearing, like arguing that being excited to see someone you care about, that's a good thing. It's not desperate.
Right. It really does show how differently people view the same behavior, doesn't it? All based on their own experiences or ideas about dating.
Totally.
And the defense seemed to be around, like, hey, genuine excitement in a relationship is healthy. It shouldn't be seen as some kind of flaw.
Yeah. It makes you think about that pressure, maybe especially on women, right? Not to seem too eager at the start.
Definitely. So Selena's vulnerability kind of accidentally sparked this whole other conversation about those unspoken dating rules.
And this whole dynamic, it gets even more context when you remember Selena's past relationship, particularly with Justin Bieber.
Right, that very public, very long, on-again, off-again relationship.
She mentioned on the podcast feeling quite alone after their final split. That whole thing spanned, 2010 to 2018. It was a long time.
A significant chunk of her young adult life, and she specifically said on this podcast, didn't she, that before Benny, she hadn't liked anyone in a very long time.
Yeah, really emphasizing that this connection felt different, new.
Which lines up with things she said back in 2022 in her documentary My Mind and Me.
Oh, right. What did she say there?
She called the Bieber breakup ultimately the best thing, but also admitted feeling kind of haunted by it for a long time until she moved past it.
Okay, so that really paints a picture, doesn't it? Someone maybe understandably cautious, maybe a bit rusty, stepping back into dating seriously.
Absolutely. Feeling invested, then alone for a while, that can definitely ramp up the intensity and, yeah, the anxieties of a new connection.
It gives a different lens for those early moments with Benny, maybe.
It really does. That fear of being vulnerable again after a big heartbreak is powerful.
Yeah.
It can show up in unexpected ways, like maybe arriving super early just to get your head straight.
So, now let's fast forward a bit. Their relationship seems to have moved pretty quickly from those early days.
Seems like it. They confirmed they were dating when? December 2023.
Yeah, and then bam, engaged just a year later, December 2024.
Wow, okay.
Selena shared it on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
That picture of the ring, caption, forever begins now.
So it suggests that despite maybe some early nerves or awkwardness, the connection was strong and pretty fast.
Yeah. It's kind of a reminder that, initial bumps or anxieties don't have to derail things. Sometimes working through them builds a stronger bond. And it's also worth remembering, they didn't just meet randomly right before they started dating.
No, their paths had crossed before, right, way back.
Yeah, apparently they first met back in 2013. Through Selena's mom, interestingly enough.
Okay, so there was some history there, and professional history too, wasn't there?
Right. Benny co-produced some big tracks for her. Kill 'Em with Kindness, Same Old Love,
Yeah.
from her 2015 Revival album.
So, yeah, a foundation of knowing each other, probably some mutual respect already there before things turned romantic.
So let's try and wrap this up. We've looked at these really personal, sometimes endearingly awkward stories that Selena and Benny shared about how their relationship
Did say
started.
on a podcast, yeah.
And like clockwork in our digital age, these stories just blew up online, generated this whole spectrum of reactions.
Right, from some really intense criticism, especially towards Benny,
Mm-hmm.
to loads of people saying, hey, I get it, finding Selena's side really relatable, even sweet.
It's the contrast that's striking, isn't it? What seemed like their intention just sharing some lighthearted, maybe vulnerable moments.
Yeah, a bit of insight into their journey.
Versus how intense and sometimes judgmental the online interpretation became.
It really does highlight that tightrope celebrities walk, doesn't it? Sharing even seemingly small personal details can backfire or just get twisted.
This whole episode of DRM News Global really makes you think. What does this intense public focus on celebrity relationships actually say about our own expectations, our own experiences with dating, with vulnerability?
Yeah.
Maybe consider how anyone in the public eye has to navigate sharing these intimate details today when every single word can be amplified and dissected instantly. Definitely some food for thought as you go about your day.